Black Police Officers Association and the San Diego Police Department. We really appreciate you coming out to hear our stories and showing support and love. This is not something that comes together easy. There were a lot of individuals in this room tonight that really worked hard to put this together, and I want to make sure that they get their recognition. Everybody that is on the planning committee for this event, please raise your hand and let's give them a round of applause. All the hard work they did months and months ago. Okay? I also want to thank the honorees and their families for sharing their stories with us, because we really had to work hard to find the right people to honor every year, and we feel like we did that. We brought some stories forward that were inspirational. None of us got here today on our own. We all got here on the back of someone else. And it's those people, it's the Roulettes, and the Dick Lewises, and the Octavias, and the Howards, and the Donnas, and the Mike Cashes of the world that really inspired us to continue to try to move forward in law enforcement. The community, I can't say enough about you. I love you, I appreciate you. You are what makes me and the Bpoa continue to work so hard. You're supporting us, you're standing by us, you're backing us. When we call, you come. So give yourselves a round of applause.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rattling, the bombs bursting in air.
Good evening, everyone. And it was 28 years. I love my extra 3. Let's go before the Lord in prayer, shall we? Our Lord and our God, how excellent is your name in all the earth. We come before you tonight, O God, thanking you for who you are and all that you have done for us. Tonight, Lord God, we set aside just a few of your humble servants to give homage and honor to them, not because of their human endeavors or their human accomplishments, but because of what they accomplished because of you. We thank you for their service, and we thank you, Heavenly Father, for enabling them to be your representatives in the community. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for empowering them, Heavenly Father, to serve the people as you desire for us to do. And so we pray your blessings tonight on this gathering. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for all who have come. We pray, oh God, that you would grant us peace and unity throughout this event, and then allow us, Heavenly Father, to take what we've learned tonight into the community, not to celebrate what we've done in the past, but to look forward to serving you and the community in the future. For it is in the name of Jesus with Christ we pray. Amen.
Good evening. This is the history of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Dating back to 1865, it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. Note that this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official January 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation had little impact on the Texans due to the minimal number of Union troops to enforce the new executive order. However, with the surrender of General Lee in April of 1865 and the arrival of General Granger's regiment, the forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome the resistance.
I know that we are facing great challenges across this nation in our communities of color with policing, and I surmise the Black Police Officers Association is called upon often to explain their position on what's happening across the nation. I imagine it must be hard to put this uniform on every day not knowing what we will face. I know you all have a hard job, and tonight we get to put the political landscape behind us, and we get to celebrate those who broke down barriers, faced discrimination, and blazed a trail for others. I think Officer Akila, she already went through the definition, but when I hear the word pioneer, I think of what it took on a personal level to have this distinction of honor. I know we will hear incredible stories of triumph and perseverance. Can you imagine, I bet you can because some of you were there, but I can't imagine the intestinal fortitude it took to be a person of color and become a police officer 50 years ago. I look forward to hearing the journey of our 7 honorees and what it truly means to be a pioneer. I am also looking forward to hearing from our keynoter this evening, Roulette Armstead, who is the first woman, Black woman, but the first woman to ever make the rank of captain in the San Diego Police Department. To our men and women in blue, thank you for the hard job that you have done and are doing every day to keep our community, city, and nation safe.
Good evening. It's truly an honor to be here tonight. I think a lot of you know last month the San Diego Police Department turned 130 years old. Over the 130 years, the department has transformed to what is now due to the work of the men and women of the San Diego Police Department and the diverse communities that we serve. Currently, our department is over 2,500 members, serving a population of over 1.4 million. We have been identified by the FBI as being the safest large city in the nation. Let's not forget that there are many men and women who served before us, men and women who overcame difficult and unique obstacles and made sacrifices to get us to where we are today. Tonight, we honor some of those men and women. In addition to the hard work and sacrifices of those who served before us, it is our job to train and educate the people currently working and to foster the youth who will be replacing us in the future to continue the growth of our department in a positive direction. Safe communities cannot exist without a strong relationship between them and law enforcement. San Diego could not have received the accolade from the FBI without the strong, unwavering support of the communities that we serve. However, the accolade should not be mistaken for perfection. Both the community and the department can and should take steps to further strengthen our relationships. Giving up on our commitment to one another is not an option. We must and will work together to find solutions and recognize that our temporary and long-term goals are one and the same. Working together to support one another for a safer and more vibrant San Diego is the key. I would like to thank the San Diego Black Police Officers Association for making tonight's ceremony possible, especially the Black Police Officers Board, Lieutenant Kelso, and the whole board. I want to say thank you for a job well done. I truly appreciate all your work, and as well as many of the department members, organizations, and community groups who came together to support this event. I say thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here to really hear the stories of the pioneers that came before us. Some I actually had the pleasure of working with, so thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. This year's 2019 Black Police Officer Scholarship recipient is a young lady that just graduated from Morris High School. Throughout her 4 years, she maintained over a 4.3 grade point average. And that's after losing her mother to a battle with cancer. So imagine that. All right, so there were several schools that this young lady was accepted to, but she chose to stay home and attend UCSB. So she is our 2019 scholarship recipient. And her name is Judy Tagliani. She had other obligations here tonight, so I'll be accepting this award on her behalf.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you tonight. Can I please get a show of hands? How many of you like long speeches? Inasmuch as I did not see an array of hands, I promise that as your speaker, I will adhere to the 3 B's. I will be somewhat brief, I will be bright, and I will be gone. When I retired from the San Diego Police Department 14 years ago, I was asked if I had seen a lot of positive change in policing during my 31 years on the job. My response was that I had seen some positive change, such as a slightly higher educational level of police officers, but I readily admitted that all the changes that I had hoped for during my career had not happened. I said that when we view diversity, most law enforcement agencies were not reflective of the communities they serve. I talked about how women continue to struggle for acceptance in all aspects of law enforcement. And I spoke about how disappointed I was with continuing problems concerning the use of force in policing throughout America. And here we are, 14 years later. And guess what? All of these problems and more are still readily apparent in policing today. However, because I am a futurist, I want to look ahead and I want to think about what still can be and what should be for those of you who choose to serve as our law enforcement officers.
My continued vision for the 21st century is to see 7 seeds planted in the field of policing. The seeds of leadership, knowledge, creativity, problem solving, diversity, control of force, and community policing. If these 7 seeds take root, if they sprout, if we cultivate them, and if they are allowed to grow, they can provide a vision for tomorrow's police leaders. Regarding the seed of leadership, the police may be the very last organization in America to maintain the authoritarian organizational structure. We don't understand the fear this generates among employees or realize how it stifles creativity, decision-making, and initiative within the ranks. Today, the best organizations in the nation are adopting leadership styles based on transformational leadership and servant leadership. These styles stress moving decision-making down to the lowest level so that sergeants and lieutenants can actively make decisions and lead their officers into true professionalism. These leadership styles stress listening to others, particularly our employees and people in our neighborhoods. They stress what I term building a mature, shared responsibility, high-performance team, whereby the development of the workforce moves customer service delivered by law enforcement from very good to excellent. They stress transforming people and transforming communities. Even so, many police administrators continue to practice coercive leadership styles. In his published article entitled 9 Ways Police Leadership Can Navigate Change, San Diego Police Lieutenant Benjamin Kelso writes, and I quote, "When considering best practices, law enforcement models of the past do not provide solutions for today's problems." He goes on to say, Many times, police leadership tends to resist or reject change in terms of maintaining the status quo. This thought process has shown itself harmful to the professional reputation of modern police agencies that must answer to communities demanding transparency and collaboration, unquote. It is time to move from fear to fostering. Although we must hold our employees accountable, it is time to stress listening, coaching, mentoring, shared responsibility, and decision-making at the lowest level and employee development as the most important characteristics of a police leader. In terms of the seat of knowledge, as a young police officer in the late 70s, I took advantage of the monies offered by the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration, whereby federal funds were designated to assist police officers to obtain higher education. This assistance enabled me to obtain my graduate degree at San Diego State University. I was convinced then, as I am now, that policing can be a profession of interdisciplinary intellectual substance. Yet true professionalization will not happen until police leaders possess a baccalaureate degree. Our police supervisors and managers must know how to lead our next generation of officers out of the authoritarian pit hole and into a paradigm of shared responsibility and transparency. I can clearly remember debating this issue in 1978 in a criminal justice class at San Diego State. Back then, I believed that every police officer should have a baccalaureate degree at the time of hire. However, due to circumstance and persuasion, I have since somewhat altered my view. I remember we compared the police model to the medical model in terms of true professionalism. The police lost out early in the game due to not requiring a baccalaureate degree when entering the police academy. We're living in a society that has lost touch with reality. A doctor can treat us and can save our life, and he or she must have a degree. On the other hand, a police officer can take away our fundamental right to freedom and can legally take away our life, and yet we do not require that person to have a degree. A GED will fit the bill. We must stop selling ourselves short. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not hung up on degrees, but we must prepare our future police officers to meet the current law enforcement challenges. What I observed during my 31 years in policing was that those officers who had degrees were less prone to violence. Those officers who had degrees were better able to think on their feet, quickly assess the situation, and make sound, better informed decisions. Those officers who had degrees received less citizens' complaints, and when complained about, the accusations were usually not serious in nature. The majority of these officers who had degrees attended on-ground classes and had an added advantage of interacting with other students from varying walks of life. It is time to move from diplomas to degrees. It is time to institute the bachelor's degree, at least at the supervisory level in the policing profession. I firmly believe that an advanced degree should be required for administrative positions. In terms of the seat of creativity, authoritarian policing styles stifles creativity in so many ways, from our leadership styles to our ongoing romance with the status quo. This is unfortunate because the problems facing law enforcement today in terms of increased violence, particularly gun violence, police militarization such as happened in Ferguson, Missouri, and tighter budgets require not more of the same, but new and creative ways of addressing law enforcement problems. A recent survey indicates that the number one fear of young people ages 14 to 29 is being involved in a school shooting. In assessing these acts of violence, it is notable that in many of these instances, there was a failure to act on the warning signs. When I speak of the seat of creativity, I'm reminded of the creative approach that our district attorney, Summer Stephan, embarked upon to prevent school shootings here in San Diego County. In fact, she created a multidisciplinary approach to address this issue, to include the school response, the law enforcement response, and the prosecutorial response. Attorney Stephan created a protocol whereby school threats of violence in our county are taken seriously. These threats are analyzed, reviewed, and if the evidence and facts dictate, there will be intervention and/or prosecution. It is time to stop saying that we need to handle a situation a certain way simply because it has always been handled that way in law enforcement. We must move to being the center of creativity and innovation in government. Regarding the seat of problem solving, For more than 30 years, police leaders have talked about problem-oriented policing. We've called it different things, community-oriented policing, POP. Most recently, we began using terms such as evidence-based policing, predictive policing, intelligent-led policing, perhaps because all of these terms sound so intelligent. Yet, there are still some people that are still confused about what all this really means. Oftentimes, we use these terms because we're used to talking a good game. The phrases sound nice. They are great buzzwords. They're cool and they get us monetary grants. But in reality, we are not allowing our officers to problem solve. To put it bluntly, some administrators are secretly still playing the old numbers game, especially when it comes to making arrests. They don't call it that anymore. They call it data-driven policing. This creates an infectious virus which continues to make it easier to lock our kids into state prisons rather than enrolling them into state universities. It is time to move from suppression to solution. It is time for those of us in charge of putting people in jail to still look closely at who we're putting in jail and the reason why we're putting them there. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm soft on crime. What this means, for example, is that instead of arresting that 10 or 11-year-old kid for stealing some food because he or she is hungry, we should be getting that kid involved in proactive counseling, prevention, and intervention. And we should work hand in hand with the family to keep that child out of the criminal justice system. In other words, let the officers do more problem solving. Allow them to tackle the root cause of the problem. Although changes have been made, many of us with children are still very much worried about the 3 strikes law. Still today, many of us are very much worried about the prospect of our 14-year-olds being tried as an adult. What we must do is work to keep children from getting that very first strike. Then the third one becomes insignificant. Again, it is time to move from suppression to solution. It is time to understand that law enforcement's reacting to and suppression of problems must be complemented by problem-solving preventive strategies and a significant voice in the community towards work on root causes. Officers must continue to work closely with our schools and do more than train the crossing guards. But there is still a multitude of problems, from the schoolhouse to the courthouse and on into the jailhouse, involving our children. Officers must continue to work with our churches and do more than guard the offering basket. Officers must practice what they preach and continue to mentor, coach, and model appropriate, lawful, professional behavior. When we view the seat of diversity, most police agencies are still not representative of the people they police. We see a few more African Americans and Hispanics in uniform. However, Native Americans and Asians are noticeably scarce. We as women continue to struggle within agencies for acceptance. Although we've proven our due, we continue to fight for acceptance as officers, then are promoted. Oftentimes, we must fight all over again to become accepted as a supervisor or as a manager. I was told all of my career to strive to break through the glass ceiling, but no one ever told me that once I broke through that glass ceiling, I would run head first into a brick wall. Some of the pioneers that gave me strength and courage were women like Connie Van Putten, a Caucasian woman who was the first female patrol officer for the San Diego Police Department, a woman who sued the city of San Diego for the right to be allowed to take the police sergeant's exam because she was told that women were not allowed to supervise men. Not only did she take the exam, she outscored all the men and paved the way for the rest of us women to become supervisors and managers. Pioneers like Elder Johnson, who woke up one morning and was told that she was being assigned to patrol with little to no training in patrol procedures. Shirley Black, whose academy administrators fired all the women and people of color in her academy, only to face a federal court order mandating their reinstatement. Pioneers like Octavia Parker, who weathered the storm over at the San Diego Sheriff's Department. And male pioneers like Johnny Williams, who was already a legendary detective when I joined the police department. Dick Lewis and Jimmy McCaskill, who were the first 2 black officers that I saw at the San Diego Police Department when they came to speak to my academy class. Ray Dobbs and Mike Gillespie, who were both black lieutenants long before I ever attained that rank. Due to my experiences in policing, I must ask the following questions. How do we prepare African American women to survive the daily struggle of being a team player versus a rugged individualist in law enforcement? How do we prepare them to justify their existence on a daily basis and to continue to have to justify their work habits? How do we prepare them to deal with the triple marginality of being a black woman with a badge? As you know, the San Diego Police Department recently celebrated its 130-year anniversary. As of today, June 14th, 2019, there are no black females at the San Diego Police Department above the rank of police detective. What this means is that there are no black female sergeants at the San Diego Police Department. There are no black female lieutenants. There are no black female captains or assistant chiefs. The last black woman that was promoted to sergeant at the San Diego Police Department was Alexis Blaylock, who attained that rank 14 years ago and has since left the organization. In the 130-year history of the San Diego Police Department, only 2 black women have ever been promoted beyond the rank of police sergeant. Those women, retired Lieutenant Kimberly McElroy and me. The San Diego County Sheriff's Department currently has 5 black female sergeants and 1 black female lieutenant. Now, there are a lot of things going on here. Oftentimes, there are so few women in law enforcement positions that we compete against one another. As such, we do not mentor or assist our peers. Women, we must reach across the aisle and help one another regardless of our color. With the recent erosion of women's rights throughout America, a victory for any one of us is a victory for us all. Let's stride on our similarities rather than divide due to our differences. As women in blue, we cannot afford to be complacent. We must move out of our comfort zone. We must step up to the plate and accept the challenge. We must prepare, we must study, we must pass those promotional examinations. We must meet with our bosses, tell them our career aspirations, and get a strong commitment from them to assist us with our career plan. Don't sit around wishing upon a star, be the star. Remember, your chief cannot promote you if you're not in the game, and your chief should not promote you if you're not game ready. I firmly believe that law enforcement agencies must rid themselves of what I call blind paper promotional processes. These processes are used right here in our county, whereby the reviewer never meets nor sees the candidate. I believe that if you are competing for a position in law enforcement, you should be allowed to articulate in person who you are to the board. You should be allowed to demonstrate your competency and your values in person to the board, so that the board can determine if you are commensurate with who and what is needed to move the organization forward in the 21st century. And there's another piece to this as well. If you have a senior candidate who has done everything that you ask them to do career-wise, they are actively involved in the community, they have their degree in their back pocket, and they have gone before the promotional board time and time again and have not been promoted, you as the agency head owe it to this person to look them into the eye and tell them very, very specifically why they have not been promoted. And if you cannot do that, then you are not the type of leader that we need to continue to move law enforcement forward in the 21st century. A diverse, well-represented police department is a safer department for police officers and is truly a community asset. It is time to move from hiring relatives to harnessing rainbows. It is time to create police departments that reflect the gender and the colors of our communities. We must ask ourselves, are we really recruiting or are we merely reinstituting? Within the seat of force control, I view police officers as peacekeepers. The police need to speak out about the causes of violence, but we should not get caught up in it. Peace ought to begin with the peacekeepers. Police authority to use force is sacred and must never, ever be abused. It is time to move from muscle to mediation. It is time to reinforce our commitment to support the alternatives to police violence and the use of deadly force only to save a human life. Within the seat of community policing, I strongly believe that the role of the police in the 21st century should still be that of community organizer and protector. Community policing will be the glue that bonds communities together and make them strong. If we do community policing poorly, or if we merely mouth the buzzwords, this will be our downfall, and we may never have the opportunity to make a real difference in the lives of people or to change the status quo. A great example of true community policing and how one police department changed the status quo occurred with Stockton Chief of Police Eric Jones, who decided that he needed to do something different in his city to curb violent crime. He began to listen to those formerly incarcerated. He began to listen to victims and survivors of crime. And he began to listen to those in communities that are most impacted by high crime and that have the lowest trust in his police department. Then he began to change policies and practices based on what he learned from his listening sessions. For instance, he trained his officers in implicit bias, which is how biases form and how they can jeopardize good judgment. He trained them in procedural justice, which is about being fair, being neutral, giving a voice to people, and respectful communication. As a result, community trust exploded throughout the Stockton Police Department. Community members began calling the police, providing information about crime cases, which ultimately reduced violent crime in this city. In fact, the homicide clearance rate went from 40% in 2017 to 66% in 2018. In order to be straightforward about community policing with our police officers and with citizens, 5 things must happen in addition to the planting and cultivation of the seeds that I've already mentioned. First, the police must move from the practical to the ethical. Remember, the police must always practice what they preach. We must not allow corruption to enter our departments, and when it does, we must deal with it swiftly and aggressively. We should be the ethics people in government. Secondly, we must move from occupier to organizer. We will never make it as an occupation force. Instead, we must work with and organize neighborhood residents to assure peace and order. We should never ever blur the line between peacekeeper and soldier. Third, the police must move from controlling to caring. We must get rid of the us and them mentality that divides us and the citizens we serve. We must believe in the basic fundamental goodness of all people.
I told you this would be a night to remember. You know, I listened to Chief Armstead and Dick Lewis and Captain Parker, and I tell you, those stories really hit home. They really dug deep. There's something that each and every one of you will walk away with when you leave here tonight and you'll think about it. You know, the history is rich. In 1933, Carter G. Woodson, and some of you may know who that is, and some of you may not, but something he said. He said, the history shows us that it doesn't matter who is in power or what revolutionary forces take over the government. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privileges in the end than they had in the beginning. That's right. Each one of these people that we honor tonight had to fight, claw, and scratch to earn their respect as a law enforcement officer. And today we continue to do that. Our next honoree was an outstanding teacher. When you come to law enforcement, you need a guide and a mentor. And Michael Cash was mine. There were a lot of others. Jimmy McCaskill was one, and Jimmy McCaskill was more like the angry father that would give you a whipping if you didn't do right. And I got lots of verbal whippings from Jimmy McCaskill. Some of you did too, right? Doesn't matter who you are, you got him, right? When I met Michael, he was the community relations officer at Southeastern Division in 1991. And an interesting story was that community relations officers drove unmarked cars in 1991. And I remember our first meeting pretty well. He may not remember it, but I vividly remember responding to a call with my partner. I was a brand new officer of a disturbance involving a tow truck, all right? And the community relations officer at the scene at the time was working on a real diplomatic solution with the tow truck driver for his unmarked car. And out of that, I learned the value of diplomacy as a police officer. So those early lessons continued on when he became a sergeant at Southeastern. And he saw something in me that maybe other people didn't see. All right, he gave me opportunities. He knew I was a young officer with a high drive, and he referred to me as a knucklehead. All right, and I probably was a knucklehead. right? He said that, you're going to be a great cop, but you're going to make a lot of big mistakes, right? And you're going to make those because you rush into situations without thinking them through. And that came to me when there was this high-profile rapper gang enforcement campaign against narcotics. We call that We Can. And Southeastern Division, like I said, where he was the community relations officer before being promoted to sergeant. As a sergeant, he was my supervisor in a unit called Operation Weed and Seed. And in 1994, he was transferred to the position of Special Assistant to the Chief of Police for Community Relations until he was promoted to lieutenant. During that time, he was also the president of the Bpoa. As lieutenant, Mike oversaw Super Bowl 37. He advanced to rank of captain in 2006 before he held his final assignment as a commanding officer at Eastern Division before retiring to become the Chargers Director of Security. He's currently the Police and Fire Chief and the Director of Public Safety for the Seaside, Central California city of Guadalupe, California. And I present to you, Michael Cash.
Thank you very much. It's an outstanding honor. What I want to really talk about for my time today is I want to peel back the other part of law enforcement. There are some great people. I remember Octavia and Sierra out there. There's some people here on the table I'm going to be talking about, but I want to talk about the real part that most don't know if not law enforcement. Let's pull back. The stuff in the street is easy. It's the politics inside the department that you got to deal with. Okay? And unfortunately, sometimes we're harder on ourselves than anything else. Sometimes we don't appreciate each other and try to take down each other instead of supporting each other. Sometimes that's the biggest struggle. But when you talk about trailblazers, I'll be honest, I'm blessed you can say that. I got to work around some people that you will not believe. When I first came on, I grew up 2 blocks from here. We used to walk on the railroad track and see them right here, like the Portland Elementary. And, we'd have some gunshots, and so me and Mom slept on the floor. That one was good. Hey, you knew what you had and you had a good time. But when the thing came along as far as police department, it was a single mom. So you had to learn as you kind of went. And I tell you, as a young man growing up, one of the first things you'd see, some of the older police officers here remember 801 West Market. That was the central place to go. And as a young black police officer, there was no real role models that I knew of. But there was one sharp-dressed brother who would walk down the hallway and you wanted to be Dick Lewis. That's the first time, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. Dick had a way of walking and go, that's what I want to be. I didn't know him, I was too afraid to go talk to him. But he walked with pride and dignity and was always sharp. So that was one of those first lessons. And let me correct here on Ben, as I kind of went through my career, I worked for a few people in actuality throughout my entire career. One of the hardest persons I had to work for. The hardest person I had to work for. She's sitting right over here. I'm almost afraid to kind of even look at her. Chief Armstead. Now, I'm a police chief right now. That's still my boss. She retired. You talk about as a community relations officer, she selected me to be her community relations officer. This is right before the Rodney King thing. You talk about community relations officers had take-home vehicles. Listen, okay, we got statute of limitations are over with now, so we can talk about certain things. I had a
a take-home vehicle because she said so. No one else had one. She stood up and go, no, this is my community. This is what he's going to have. I want 24-hour service. She made that happen. I learned how to act. I learned how to do things right. And for a young brother who, I kind of put it this way, rode with a foot up his derriere for years. I could taste her shoe leather for years. Because she was the mentor, she was the boss, and you gotta admit, and I know Willie is outstanding, gentle. She's a beautiful lady. So now you got these young cubs who see this woman here, and first they're afraid of her, but yeah, she's beautiful too, but we're afraid of her. You listen to her. She walked with authority. If you were ever around and see her work, not one time did you ever see her unprofessional. That was, because there's a lot of people who used to talk a good game. She played it 24/7, and you learned. And I do have my master's degree, man. I'm going to talk to you about who helped get that also. But she stressed it. And as I kind of moved forward, when it came time for sergeant, I really didn't think much about it. I was okay with what I was doing. She let me know that no, that's not acceptable. We're going to move forward. Well, whatever. She supplied written material, wrote out, and this is before the kind of computer age kind of stuff, wrote out several pages of these are the laws. I thought I was going to law school. She wrote out so much paperwork we had to study. You were afraid to fail, so that's why you worked hard. And we had our study groups, Captain. Yes, we had our study, but it was back in the day where it wasn't out in the open. We kind of had to hide to go find study groups. You had to slip the paperwork to me, and that's kind of unfortunate. But then too is becoming president of the Black Police Officers Association. I'll be honest, was I ready? No. I thought, oh shoot, this is smooth. This is cool. That was one of the hardest jobs really you kind of had to do. And there's people here who understand some of the things we really went through. We had a letter sent to the newspaper about racism in the San Diego Police Department, which had my name on it. And that was published in the Voice of Yukon. And when you're a young cop, you think the police department is the best thing, will always take care of you. That was the first time I ever received death threats from internal organization. That was a scary moment. That was a real scary moment. It woke you up. But she stressed to continue to move forward. And I looked at this, she's here. I'm not afraid. I'm more afraid of her than what someone else going to do out there. So I always strive to move forward. But the other part that came about is some people here who remember George Stevens. Man. That was one of the brothers who helped me to move forward. Brian, I think you still out here, Pendleton. If you just raise your hand, he was up here. Steve, I think I see you out there, Hutchinson. A young brother out here. Tambuzi, where are you at? Because it's kind of scary. I don't know if you know Tambuzi, John Moore. These are the brothers that helped me to move along. This was a community effort. When you say what I got here, what's going on, that's not my cash. This is my cash. When I didn't act right, Roulette called me on the carpet. I can't even say it in public. She could throw down. Let's just put it that way. She is class on par. But she go behind closed doors, she could take off the shoes, the earrings, and whoop you like you until the white meat shows. And you walk out, yes ma'am, and you got it squared away.
But the brothers over here, when I became, and I mean, let's be honest, you know, we all huddled together to work. Steve had a walkabout him that was Malcolm X to the 10th. I wanted to be that. Brian was just smooth. I wanted to be that. Teddy could sing. I wanted to be that. That was the time we looked after each other. I remember, and now this is a kid who didn't really understand, and I'm going to spell it out to some of the brothers here who are in a position of rank. Steve hit me up when I was president of Bpoa. He said, "Man, are you black enough?" Remember that, Steve? That was such a true statement. That was such a true statement. And I had to learn what it was, because to be honest with you, I never really had to deal with much racism until President Bpoa. And we had to go before a assistant chief to talk about, it was a time when there were no people of color in the management rank in investigations. And we went to go talk to, Steve was there, Brian was there, so I got witnesses. And we said, we'd like to see this change. And that assistant chief talked about, because Steve was in games, and I don't know if Brian was in gaming homicide, but he goes, why? I thought you guys liked the shiny cars and working that way. And we started looking at each other in the office. That was a wake-up call. And don't get me wrong, I love the department and what we did. My best friend sitting back over here, and my son. But that was a wake-up call. And then Roulette got on my case about getting education. That's why I made lieutenant. Because she said, get off your butt and get going. But then too, I want to make sure that I include some real stuff here also. Minister, you, I know I saw you earlier today. You still out here, sir? Yeah. There you go. That's a trailblazing. Yes, sir. That's a hero. I remember you came to town. We met. I got some static come to meet you from the chief's office. I got some static, but we've been friends ever since. You've been my mentor, my guide. I thank God for you. That's right. Francine, I know you similar around. You talk about an activist. I have been out of the city for I don't know how many years. I still get texts. Yes, sir. Because she goes, okay, this is what Neslight's proposing. What do you think about it? I don't work there. I said, but treat the man right because he's good people. She said, I will, but I ain't going to let him off the hook. I wish I would have had you when I was going to school for you to get our school system taken care of. But one of the other people is Adolfo Gonzalez. Yes, sir. This is a quiet hero. Roulette worked and put herself on the line so many times and got caged plenty of times. When she said about the brick wall, if you weren't there at the city council, when she let them know, she should have been chief of police. That's right. It might have been a brick wall, but damn, you kicked it in. Excuse my friend. But Adolfo, we go way back because there were times when we couldn't get positions. I get that late night phone call when Adolfo will get another position someplace. Mike, I want you to come over here. I'm going to try to transfer you to this job.
Take it back to church real quick. I wanted to sing all the solos, but my cousin could sing too. But I had to sing all the solos. So my mom used to, you got to share the mic, you got to share the mic. So at this time, I can't sing all the time. So at this time, I'm going to invite Lieutenant Eddie Brock from the San Diego Sheriff's Department to our stage so that he can present for Captain Octavia Parker.
Good evening, San Diego. Before I get started, I want Professor Armstead to know that I have my degree because I followed this amazing example, so I won't let you down. And I have my advanced degree, so you can check me off your list, please. I'm here tonight to present to you my mentor and a very good friend to my wife and my family, retired Captain Bpoa Parker. Bpoa Parker was born in San Diego, California. She joined the Sheriff's Department in 1979 and served the citizens of this county for over 33 years. After graduating the Sheriff's Academy, she began serving at the Los Salinas Detention Facility. In 1982, she transferred to the Encinitas Patrol Station, where she excelled and she was promoted to the rank of sergeant. She then transferred to the South Bay Detention Facility and enjoyed the distinction being the first female sergeant to work there. From the very start, Bpoa was a strong and competent supervisor. She was quickly transferred to the most prolific patrol station in the sheriff's jurisdiction in the city of Lemon Grove. Bpoa was destined to excel. She was promoted to the rank of lieutenant in 1991, and again in 1994 she was promoted to the rank of captain. In our department and around the county, she became well known for her high level of proficiency, expertise, and technical knowledge of handling critical incidents. This was very evident for the whole world to see during her management of two of the most prolific, high-profile cases that occurred in San Diego County, the Chelsea King and the Amber Dubois homicide investigations. Captain Parker earned a master's degree of arts and management from the University of Redlands. She graduated from the 196th session of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. In 2010, Captain Parker was elected to be the FBI National Academies Association's chapter president for California. Bpoa is happily married to her wonderful husband, Dr. John C. Parker IV. Dr. Parker practiced both child and adolescent psychology for over 30 years. John and Bpoa are happily married and retired here in San Diego County. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a well-deserved, heartfelt thank you and congratulations to retired Sheriff's Captain Bpoa Parker.
I want to thank the Bpoa for this award. I want to thank my colleagues and my former colleagues before I retired in San Antonio Sheriff's Department who are here at Table 5. And I'd be remiss in my wifely duties if I didn't thank my husband, John, for standing by and getting me through some difficult times. Thank you for your love and support over the years. Chief Armstead? I was first at I went to the San Diego Police Department Reserves, and then I joined the Sheriff's Department a few years later. But I rode patrol with Chief Armstead back in 1977, I want to say. Anyway, she was brilliant, and I was impressed by her, and I thought, if I come here, I'll be like her. And if I don't come to the police department, I still want to be like her, because she was just so full of energy and intelligence. The one thing I want to clear up here, because it's not widely known, and the Sheriff's Department does a great job of concealing this, there are two divisions in the Sheriff's Department. I was going to say two bureaus. There's a corrections bureau, and all those veterans do is work the jail, period. Then there's the Law Enforcement Services Bureau. We've got Captain Tapia, who's captain for the Encinitas Station, and then Sonny, who is traffic in Encinitas, my West Stomping Grounds. These are law enforcement services people. When you say how many blacks do we have promoted from the department to any rank, the female lieutenant, and I don't even know who it is, but that's from the Department of Corrections, not law enforcement services there. So I don't know how many blacks we actually have working. And the nice thing about the law enforcement services bureau, you talk about people reflecting the community that we work in, and we have people here that do just that. We try to force everybody into the Department of Corrections. I had to help one of our deputies here get to law enforcement services because they wanted to push reports detentions, and in there, yeah, we represent a lot of them are because of behind bars. And what I wanted to express to the Sheriff's Department is that we need to be in the field. We need to be in a visible position where people in the community, that will just do that second look when that patrol car goes by. It's like, wow, is that, who was that just went by? And we have very few, I don't know the exact number of people of color in patrol, but the corrections department, they don't go to patrol. Anybody here at this table can work the jails and patrol and other investigative assignments. And it's not the same for the corrections department. So when you see these law enforcement services bill is where these are. And I don't know what the number is, but I know that the department likes to stack the number of people of color in the Department of Corrections. And that way, if they says, well, how many blacks do you have that are a sergeant or a lieutenant or a captain? They will appoint to corrections. That's not true. It should be how many people do we have out in the community, like these two deputies are, how many of them are out in the community, so when people come to the station, like where Captain Tack is, which is the Anthony station, I used to work there too, but when they come to the station, they want to talk to someone about a problem. And I can't tell you the looks that I got when I walked out and somebody wants to file a complaint, and I was like, who are you? And I introduced myself as a captain. He said, well, is everybody here higher than you? And I said, no, you're talking to her. One of the things I want to touch on that Chief Armstead mentioned was complacency. When I retired, I wanted to bring someone up. I wanted to mentor people to get them to the rank of progress. I am still the highest ranking black woman on the department. And our department was established in 1850, and we have made not enough progress. As a matter of fact, we probably say today we were back in 1850. But it's important. Complacency, it kills the dream of so many other people, because when other people, especially our youth, see us in uniform and they're thinking, wow, I can do that. And that's what we want to do. We want to inspire our young people to want to have a career in law enforcement. Complacency, it just kills the dream. When I retired, I talked to a couple of people and I said, why don't you take the sergeant's exam? And one of the pastor that gave the invitation tonight, his wife was one that I was trying to get to take the sergeant's. And she looked at me in the eye and she said, Captain, I admire everything that you've done, but I don't want to be treated the way they treated you. So she declined on taking the sergeant's exam, and I got the same response from other people. But I always left my door open, whether it's at home now, being retired, or even when I was on the department, to try to get people to promote. Complacency is not where we need to be. We need to be able to go out and recruit and retain very, very intelligent and very ethical people to work in law enforcement. And everything that Chief Armstead said, all I can say is amen. She nailed it.
So if everyone here, whether you're retired or whether you're still active duty, don't be jealous because someone else may get promoted. Reach out, pull them up. When you study for the exam, do it in a group, not in a closet. We need to have study groups so we can help each other pass the exams, get promoted. Chief Vice Lady is here. He cannot promote, like Willett said. He can't promote if you're not on the list. And I know the chief because we were at the University of Rutgers. We got our master's degree together, and he's a very fine chief. And I'm waiting for the day that San Diego County Sheriff's Department will have the diversity that the San Diego Police Department has. I'm so proud of the police department. Somebody tried to say, well, sure, come to the police department. Yeah, you guys should. But we need to, in the Sheriff's Department, work to try to get people to promote. And I'm talking about the Law Enforcement Services Bill. So thank you for this award. And I'm just honored to be here. Thank you all.
Our next presenter doesn't need an introduction because he's been running around the whole time doing everything. He is the president of the San Diego Police Department, Bpoa. He will be presenting for Captain Mike Cash. Welcome to the stage, Lieutenant Ben Kelso. Before we start our presentations, I have to go back and talk about the pastor's knot. If you grew up in a non-denominational or Baptist church, you know what that pastor's knot. It means a couple things. It means sit down, don't walk while I'm talking, or you need to come to the prayer line. You know, when we were young, we didn't want to go to the prayer line. Mom said, I gotta go to the prayer line. Oh, I gotta go to the prayer line. Well, you gotta be in that class, and we need to pray that spirit about you. So, the pastor told me to go back and do my duty. Let me also recognize as a dignitary Probation Chief Adolfo Gonzalez, National City PD Chief Manuel Rodriguez. I'm being obedient, Pastor. And now we would love to start our presentations. Please welcome to the stage, Parking Enforcement Supervisor, Kim Lomack George. She will be presenting for Detective Jack Bernstein.
So nobody wants to clap for parking. I was a recipient last year as the first black parking supervisor. But before I was a supervisor, I was an officer. I was a parking officer, and to Ms. Armstead, I have associate of science and associate degree. That's all I let you know. So,
With that said, and I'm a certified usher at my church. All right, good evening. I'm parking enforcement supervisor in Old Lake Georgia. I don't know why I haven't looked down to say that. I've been that for 58 years. I stand before you as last year's honoree. So it gives me, the awesome task of presenting a trailblazer in policing. Detective Jack T. Braxton, Sr. Born in Canada on January 25th, 1914. Detective Jack Braxton eventually made his way to Bali, California, where his family made their home. Jack joined the police department in 1943 during the height of World War II, as the military drafted many police officers into wartime ranks. The San Diego Police Department was in desperate need of good men to protect and serve. And Jack turned out to be the man they needed. In fact, Jack was one of the few wartime policemen that the department did not lay off when the regular policemen returned from war. During his career, Jack partnered with Detective Sergeant William Burt Ritchie, the honoree of last year. They worked together handling crimes that occurred in the community, ranging from theft, robbery, domestic violence, and even murder. From 1947 to 1952, Jack made or participated in numerous high-profile arrests and investigations featured in the news. Jack's law enforcement career spanned over 25 years until he retired in 1968. Jack enjoyed outdoor activities in his off-duty time, including hunting, fishing, competitive shooting. During his career, Jack and his wife, Thelma, found themselves residing in the heart of the city, 31st and Logan Avenue, in the Stockton community. In this era, the Stockton community was predominantly made up of immigrant families and a diversity melting pot of San Diego. This was the very community where he was assigned to police. Much like other police of color who served there, Jack and his wife raised their 3 beautiful children. Jack and his family later moved to the Campo area, where he passed away November 3rd, 1980. Jack is survived by his 85-year-old son, Jack Jr. And tonight I will accept his plaque on behalf of the family. Thank you.
It's okay to clap really loud for our presenters because they're part of the whole planning team and they had a jury out there, so you can give them standing ovations. We love standing ovations. Our next presenter, please welcome to the stage Detective Sergeant Harold Oliver. He will be presenting for Officer Chester Taylor.
Good evening again. I promise I won't use my shower voice to sing like the brothers did earlier. I have the esteemed privilege to present to you tonight Officer Chester Taylor. Officer Chester V. Taylor was a man of principle, a veteran of the United States Navy who served in the Second World War. Officer Taylor was erroneously proclaimed as the 5th black police officer in the history of the San Diego Police Department when he was sworn in on October 8, 1951. Officer Taylor served honorably and without any discipline until July 3, 1957, when Police Chief Adam Jansen began enforcing an old but obscure city regulation which required all police officers and firefighters to be cleanly shaven. The order affected more than a quarter of the 500-member police department and was met with stiff resistance by the rank and file. Specifically Taylor, who despite the fact had a mustache at the time he tested for the position and wore facial hair when he was interviewed by Police Chief Jansen during the application process. Taylor's protest fell on deaf ears even to the city council. The result was 125 men who shaved to retain their jobs. Officer Taylor left the San Diego Police Department on principle and was the only member of the San Diego Police Department willing to leave the job to stand up for those principles. Right? Officer Taylor has no family members here tonight, so on behalf of the Chester Taylor family, I'll be accepting his award and we'll leave it here on display for you all to enjoy at the conclusion of the ceremony. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Detective Sergeant Brian Pendleton. Please welcome him to the stage. He will be presenting for Officer Edgar Dick Lewis.
Good evening. Let me wait for my grandfather to come up. I'm not getting my grandfather. This is, it's certainly an honor to stand here and present my friend. I've known Dick Lewis for, since I started my career over, now 35 years ago. But I don't know a greater man. I mean certainly there are some people who may be equal, but there's nobody greater. This man proves it with his heart every single day. We volunteer together every week, and the humanity in him shows all the time. So without me rambling, let me just get to it. Officer Edgar Dick Lewis, to give you a little perspective about who this man is and what drives him, you need to know that he is one of 10 kids born to a single mom in Bay City, Texas in 1937. So we're talking 81 years ago. This is the same year that Joe Louis beat James Braddock for the championship. For those of you who remember that, and I doubt it, Dick would probably be the only one to do that. To support her family of 6 boys and 4 girls, she picked cotton and did whatever kind of work she could find. One of Dick's most vivid memories of time spent with his mom was one with her door-to-door to look for work. That made a lasting impression on him, and it was during those times that he knew that he wanted a better life for himself. At 17 years old and without a high school diploma, Dick convinced his mom to sign papers which allowed him to join the U.S. Navy. This was in 1954. It was the same year that Brown versus the Board of Education. Dick will tell you that his primary job in the Navy was bloodletting, which in layman's terms is just scraping paint. That was his job. One day after being in the Navy for about a year, a man named Charles Coburn came up to him and asked him, how'd you like to be a plumber, a Navy plumber and a medic? Dick figured that being a plumber was a whole lot better than chipping paint, so he took the man up on his offer. But he had to obtain his GED or diploma first. After getting his diploma, he did eventually become a Navy corpsman and worked in that position for 13 years. In 1968, I was Citizen of the Month at Logan Elementary School. in the third grade. In 1968, Dick joined the San Diego Police Department. As most of you know, just based on history, this was a volatile time for blacks and police in America. Martin Luther King was assassinated, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, 3 students of South Carolina State College were murdered by the police as part of the Orangeburg Massacre. There were some good things in 1968 though too. Motown had 5 top 10 songs. The Afro became popular, and Shirley Chisholm became the first black woman elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. During his career with the police department, Dick became the community relations assistant to the chief of police, then Chief Bill Conger, who Dick credits, along with the Los Angeles Chargers owner, future Super Bowl winners, Dean Spanos, as being 2 of the most influential people in his life. While working for Chief Conger, he, along with George Barella, were given an opportunity to work security for the Chargers. They were the only 2 people on the entire department allowed to work a part-time job. Dick's career with the SEP spanned 23 years, and he retired when he was told that he had to choose the Chargers or policing, but he couldn't do both. Smart move on his part. In 1991, he left the department and began working full-time for the Chargers organization as Director of Security. He now holds the position of Director of Community Outreach. Over 23 years ago, while sitting in a meeting with other Chargers employees, Mr. Spanos told them, he says, you know, we're wasting too much food, and suggested using the extra food to feed the homeless. Dick took that bull by the horns and has been feeding the homeless in downtown San Diego ever since. 23 years, every week, and roughly 126 homeless people every Thursday. Even though the Chargers have relocated to LA, Mr. Spanos still continues to foot the bill for the food that's purchased for that week. For the last 10 years, Dick has been the driving force of a program that mentors at-risk juveniles from the McAllister Institute and adults recently released from prison. While working for the Chargers and under Mr. Spanos' insistence, you remember I told you he joined the Navy without a high school diploma. But while working for the Chargers, he went on to obtain his AA, his BA, and his doctorate. Dick had 2 kids. His son, Tony, passed away several years ago. He has a daughter, LaShawn, who lives with him in Ramona, and a grandson, Jeremy. They couldn't be here tonight, so that's why these people are standing behind me. I think we all love Dick just as much as his kids do, and we wanted to show him support. So without further ado, Dick Lewis, will you come up?
Also, to speak on Mr. Dick Lewis, we would like Mr. from the Los Angeles Chargers, we would like Arthur Hightower to please come to the stage.
Congratulations tonight to all of tonight's honorees for the service to our community and also the current men and women who service our community. On behalf of the Chargers organization, the Spanos family, employees, players, current and former, and personally, we'd like to congratulate you, Dick, for his recognition tonight as a Black pioneer of policing from the San Diego Black Police Officers Association, and also for his decades of service to the Chargers organization. As you heard, for 23 consecutive years, Dick has served our community by feeding the homeless. 23 consecutive years. Let's give that a round of applause. He is selfless giving, caring, and personally mentoring. I started with the Chargers organization 15 years ago, and Dick took me on his wings to show me everything that I needed to know. I served in the capacity of the director, senior director of player engagement, And at the time, Dick was doing security and prayer programs, but he took me under the wing, and here I am today, still standing in service in the charges in that capacity. In recognition of tonight's achievement, and your years and decades of service to not only the local community charters organization, the charter would like to donate $1,000 to the San Diego Black Policemen's Officers Association in honor of Dick Lewis.
I do want to say a few words. When Dean Spanish, the owner of the charges, found out he was leaving, going to LA, he came to my office and he said, I need to talk to you. He sat down and he said, this is what we're going to do. And I want to know what you want to do. I told him, I guess I'll retire. He said, no. What I want you to do is the same thing you're doing here in San Diego, and that's feeding the homeless and going to hotels and hospitals and singing to the elder people who folks have left them there and they don't have anybody to talk to. There's so many people at hospitals that nobody talks to. We go there every day. And I appreciate Dean Spanish for doing that. He got a place for me at Neighborhood House, and I work out of there for the LA Chargers. Thank you so much.
My sister Tiffany is not here. She's in New York, so she can't be here today. But I see a lot of familiar faces. Collins over here, this Armstead over there. It's great. Hutch, I think here, Uncle Teddy, Pendleton. It's like family. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you. Listening to my sister today, the one thing about all the officers out here is you guys have families, and sometimes it's tough when you got to come home and you got some kids acting up here and there. One thing about our parents was that they worked their butts off. There was no lazy days, not a single one. There was times where I come home from football practice and I would complain. Yeah, that was the last time I did that. Get up, shut up, get back to practice, do what you gotta do. They lived that lifestyle every single day. Saw my father, I'm sure you guys all have been around this, where you guys are on call all the time, and seeing my father come home, for about 2 hours, I'm waking up, being lazy, and some bullet Cheerios or something. And, he come there and say, Dad, just come home right now. Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick nap. 2 hours later, he's back at it again. And I'm thinking, wow, this is something else. This is something else. It's very difficult to talk about all this stuff, but it's just hard. It's just very, very difficult. But I want to say thank you to all of you, every last one of you guys, for supporting us in all times we needed when we needed it. I still see a lot of familiar faces shopping at Costco, but I've seen some of you guys in court here and there. So I want to say thank you very much for honoring our parents today.
If you didn't do right, and I got lots of verbal whoopings from different council, but some of you did too, right? Doesn't matter who you are, you got them, right? When I met Michael, he was the community relations officer at Southeastern Division in 1991, and an interesting story was that community relations officers drove unmarked cars in 1991, and I remember our first meeting pretty well, and he may not remember it, but I vividly remember responding to a call with my partner. I was a brand new officer of a disturbance involving a tow truck, all right? And the community relations officer at the scene at the time was working on a real diplomatic solution with the tow truck driver for his unmarked car. And out of that, I learned the value of diplomacy as a new police officer. So those early lessons continued on when he became a sergeant at Southeastern. He saw something in me that maybe other people didn't see, all right? He gave me opportunities. He knew I was a young officer with a high drive, and he referred to me as a knucklehead, all right? And I probably was a knucklehead, all right? He said that, you're gonna be a great cop, but you're gonna make a lot of big mistakes, right? And you're gonna make those because you rush into situations without thinking them through. And that came to me when there was this high-profile rapper gang member who was wanted for a murder, and I thought I was gonna catch him by myself. I really did. I thought I was gonna catch him by myself. I came into law enforcement at the tail end of the 1980s, and one of the things that drove me to want to be a cop was, believe it or not, Eddie Murphy. You're laughing, but Eddie Murphy played a cop, right, from Detroit, where I was from, right? So, hey, I wanted to be like Axel Foley. I wanted to catch the big guy, right? And I was going to catch him by myself, and I wasn't going to listen to Inspector Todd, Sergeant Cash at the time, right? Who yelled at me, cursed me, said, you don't know everything, right? And I didn't, right? I gave him a lot of headaches, but he kept teaching me and paying it forward, and he cultivated my growth and kicked me in the pants when I needed it. But what's really important is he taught me how to navigate the pitfalls of the law enforcement career, right? He gave me a lot of lessons. He sat me down and forced me to write things down and think things through and let my performance speak for me. And I thank you, Mike, for those lessons. Michael Cash was born in Roswell, New Mexico, and he was raised in San Diego. He graduated from Point Loma High School. He began his law enforcement career as a San Diego County Marshal assigned to court services. And in 1982, he joined the San Diego Police Department, working Western, Central, Eastern, and Northern divisions as an officer. During his 24-year career with the San Diego Police Department, he worked a variety of assignments, including the Northern Division Special Enforcement Team and the Walking Enforcement Campaign Against Narcotics, we call that WECAN, and Southeastern Division, like I said, where he was the Community Relations Officer before being promoted to Sergeant. As a Sergeant, he was my supervisor in a unit called Operation Weed and Seed, and in 1994, he was transferred to the position of Special Assistant to the Chief of Police for Community Relations until he was promoted to Lieutenant. During that time, he was also the president of the Bpoa. As a lieutenant, Mike oversaw Super Bowl 37. He advanced to rank of captain in 2006 before he held his final assignment as a commanding officer at Eastern Division before retiring to become the Chargers Director of Security.
It's working for me. Oh yeah, my faith is heaven to me. Working for me, yeah. Working for me. My faith is heaven to me. I can have what I want. I'm telling you now, I can go anywhere. You see, I'm in every place that I'm in, walking right here on earth, right here on I can have what I want. I tell you that I can go anywhere. Talking about heaven, I can walking right here on earth, right here on earth. I got heaven. I got heaven. whatever